All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our next meetup. It's super exciting to see you all here. If I remember well, it's probably one of our biggest meetup. And so it's great to see that so many people are excited about AI agents and how we can leverage them in the uncertain world of software engineering. If you want to come back, there's still some empty seats. There are 2 seats. Here's one. So feel free to come back so you don't have to stand. I'm Dominik. I'm product manager. That's why they put me on the gray chair as opposed to all the engineers in the yellow chairs. So just to make it clear who belongs to where. I work at Productboard. I work with our AI team, so we build AI features, AI products. They're all here, so they can meet you after the discussion as well. And many of you probably know that in many companies, there is a very fragile relationship between product managers and engineers. And that's probably why they thought it would be great if product manager moderates the discussion about the role of software engineering dying. And so I hope I will remain my relationships with engineers after the panel. And I'm really excited that I'm not here alone and I have amazing 3 guests. And we will introduce them shortly, but let's start with a little survey. If you could raise your hand if you have used any AI-powered tool in your day-to-day work. All right. And because we also have people joining us to live stream, so just for you, most of the people said that they have. And the second question is, have you implemented any AI feature or AI product? All right, so I would say it's like 90, maybe 100%. And the third question is, are you afraid that you will lose your job because of AI? All right. Couple of people, fine. I hope you will. I hope we will have the same percentage after the panel. Cool. We want to make the discussion as interactive as possible. We have Slido. You can scan the QR code and you can submit your questions. That applies to people here in the office as well as people joining us live. And now let's introduce our speakers. If you could just briefly mention the company you're working for and what's your experience with AI. And if I can ask you to also include what is the most exciting thing when it comes to AI and software engineering. So maybe Michal.
Hello. Okay. Nice to see you, all of you here. I'm a software engineer at Rohlik, and one of the best things about Rohlik is that you don't have to explain to everybody what you're doing. So raise your hand if you don't know Rohlik. Yeah, that's it. Oh, come on. I'm pretty sure you've seen some articles about Rohlik and automation, or maybe some tweets from Tomáš Čupra. And I came to tell you the truth. So are we replacing people or not? I'm personally responsible for a few AI initiatives at Rohlik. We have taken quite a systematic approach towards adoption, which is driven from top to bottom. So we had the possibility to try basically all the AI stuff that's on the market for the past month. So I hope that I'll give you some brief overview of what makes sense right now, what is not the way to go, so that you don't have to waste time and money. But also, we have definitely found some improvements, even though it's hard to measure. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
So I'm Tomas. I'm an engineer at Productboard. And what is exciting to me about AI is the fact that it's still super early stage. So it feels almost like the beginning of the internet. There's still so many things that are not figured out. Half of the things don't work. But if you have an idea, there's a very high likelihood that you can work on it and it's going to be cool and exciting. So that's what I like about it.
Okay. Hi everyone. I am Petr. I am from Rossum. I think not everyone might know what Rossum does, so just to briefly introduce, we automate document-based communication between companies, and we are an early stage scale-up here in Prague, and we are an AI company, so we are pretty deep tech. We have our own AI processing engine, etc. So we are very familiar with AI overall, although the things we are solving are also classical software engineering problems. And actually, I think I'll be one of the slightly skeptical voices here on this panel, because we have a fairly mature product now. Our job right now is to transfer from the easy solutions to the proper solutions for many of the things, so that we can scale the volumes we process, etc. And actually, we don't think writing code is our bottleneck right now. Thinking about problems and designing things, understanding users, etc., that's our bottleneck. And AI can help a little. In the coding, AI can help us a little too. But overall, I don't think we have a huge AI success story so far, even though we had a lot of experiments and we keep making a lot of experiments. We are not giving up. But so far, yeah, I think for more major products, the impact is still fairly limited.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for the introduction. The first area that I want to talk about is how AI already impacts the companies and the teams in your organizations. Salesforce CEO in December, he said that they are going to pause hiring software engineers because of the 30% boost of productivity with AI. And so my first question on you, Petr, is how far are you with leveraging AI tools at Rossum, and whether you see the same productivity boost at Rossum?
So there is a lot of team at Rossum, right? We have a support team that uses AI a lot to summarize support tickets, automatically evaluate the priority of them, etc. We have our sales teams where AI listens to all the sales calls, and you can essentially ask any question about any customer, and it just searches all the sales calls, and it's super useful, etc. On the engineering side, yeah, it's in the experimentation stage for us. So, of course, I think most of the people in the company right now are using, or at least trying, AI code completion in their editors, etc. That's pretty table stakes, and that saves a little of time. And we also experiment with questions about the code base, because when we onboard a new engineer, it's super helpful for them to be able to ask around, okay, what's this, how it communicates with that, and that's super powerful with some of those tools like Claude and so on. But yeah, then there is also honestly a lot of failed experiments where actually you ask Claude Code to do something and you spend a couple of hours, pretty frustrating hours, back and forth, trying to convince it to do the thing and trying to prompt it from different ways, and it just keeps failing. And if you did it yourself, you would be long done. Or even if it takes 5% less time, maybe it's actually a lot more frustrating, spend time trying to go back and forth with this very junior virtual developer, rather than building it yourself, which kind of probably gives you some joy writing the code and testing it when you are like a software craftsman, right?
All right, Michal, how do you leverage AI coding tools at Rohlik? And maybe can you share some of your observations about their effectiveness? Is it true that you start replacing your engineers with AI? What's your take on it?
So I would actually like to start explaining how in Rohlik we are using AI. I would say that there are basically three different pillars. And one of them is AI in the product. That's what everybody is doing, and you can definitely find use cases. The second one, which is also making our jobs easier of software developers, is that we actually have a low-code team, AI automation. We've got some prompt engineers that are basically doing automation via software like Make or Nathan, N8N. Yeah, that's the one. I don't know how to spell it. Yeah, but So this is the part that we see the biggest gains. And we do have several AI agents talking to each other and producing content for the people inside the company. It helps automating our processes, and that would be something that we would otherwise have to write ourselves as software engineers. So low-code solutions got a big upgrade, and we are building a team around this, and there is a lot of potential, I would say. And the third one is actually about automating the job of of software engineers with AI. And as I said, we have tried a lot of different approaches. We have tried AI code reviews, which is something that we still don't find useful, to be honest. We can talk about all the different tooling. I would say that I know the 90% of the market right now, and it didn't yield the results that we wanted. But something that actually proved to be useful is Cursor AI or any other editor that is going to help you write code with agents. We have tried Klein, we have tried Windsurf, we have tried Aider, all this cool stuff. My message to you is it basically doesn't matter what you're using, and you have to find your workflow, and the tools will catch up sooner or later. Because Klein may be better right now, but in 2 weeks, Cursor is going to have an upgrade. Maybe it's broken, it's buggy right now because they released some upgrades, so stay away from the latest release. And it can give you very good results if you have the right tasks. And I've got one story for you, how I actually got to AI coding at Rohlik. And it was the typical case that probably happens in every company. You have a lot of projects, you don't have the capacity, you have a roadmap already planned, and you need to start right now. And I didn't have a front-end developer. I was with 3 different backend developers and a QA engineer, and we had to build the product. So we started, we built the API in 2 months, and there was still no front-end developer. So I told my company, okay, let's give it a go. We're going to pay for some of these AI tools, and we actually built a front-end. And it was not that the front-end was perfect, but it definitely helped me to save the time because I was not a senior React developer. I'm still not a senior React developer, but I got a product running in 3 days. Then I fixed it for 2 other days to actually make it work. It looked great in 3 days. It took 5 days to complete. And the benefit is not that senior software engineer that was with us wouldn't be able to build it in a week. But I had the idea in mind, and I was able to just pass it to the front-end engineer that later came to the company. So I basically saved a lot of time. At the beginning, we were using bolt.new. There are other tools on the market. To be honest, I think that if you're just using Cursor, you're good to go. Because when you look at the source code of bolt.new, it's just a few smart prompts and a nice IDE and a nice UI. And Cursor is actually much more powerful because what actually matters is the developer experience and the models and the basic prompts. And you can probably build your own a little bit better when you iterate than to just rely on these online solutions which don't have Git integration, which are slow to compile. So that is our experience. And from this point, we have decided that we are going to integrate some AI generation code generation tool into our workflows. And I'm probably speaking for too long right now, so I'll get to how the adoption is going in the next question. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Maybe Zuse, on this topic, can you share how far we are at Productboard? How do we leverage AI tooling for software engineering? What's your take on what Peter and Michal said?
So I think in general, as probably most of the field, I would still say that we are at the beginning. There are a few engineers who kind of use tools like Cursor, like myself included. Some people are just starting. I think I'm really actively using it for like the past month or so. Basically, there's no other way I code except for Cursor. And then that's not the only AI application, right? We also dabbled a little with the PR review tools. We're getting some similar sentiments about their usefulness, but we'll see how the experiment goes. What else? Yeah, I mean, we've been pretty early into using ChatGPT when it was just the chats that were cool. We basically got like a company mandate for everybody to use the tool, paid by the company, and like we would just copy paste, different stuff in and out. I think that's more like for the day-to-day of like writing emails, replying to Slacks politely, right, and all those things. So yeah, I think there's and also there's this product aspect of it, of course, as well. Especially since we are a product management company, I think that. That's a very interesting field to be in right now because of the prompts that you have to write. So who's really writing all the PRDs, right? Like the product specifications and the features and everything, and then you pass it to maybe some agent and maybe it will be done. So this is kind of the area of what I think Productboard is thinking right now about, like, what do we bring to the market?
All right, so you shared how far you are in your companies. Can you just, one number, how much more productive are you? Is it 10%, 15%? I know it's difficult to quantify, but what you're thinking on it?
I'll start. I'll be a little bit honest. I think that you have an edge now. Like if you, as a developer, are using something like Cursor, it will give you some time back, and it's up to you how you use it. So essentially, like I'm trying to like bring some sense of sanity back to my work. So instead of just piling more work on top of it, I get to speak with people. I get to write the document that I wanted to write for like half a year. I have more time to think, to strategize, to socialize with others. So. It's very hard to say like in absolute terms, like if it's really saving me something, but it's definitely saving my sanity. But I guess I can give you some estimate. Like I would say that in our front-end React code base, let's say I'm probably able to do like 3 worth of days of work in like 2 hours. It really like effective 3 days, right? Like, so you have meetings, you're doing, a lot of stuff. So let's say like 3 real days, I'm able to like prompt in a few hours basically. And then I do all the other stuff that I just described.
All right, interesting. I'm really curious what you do to get back your sanity. But Peter, what's the number of your productivity boost?
So before I answer with Rossum, I actually asked on LinkedIn a couple of days ago, I made a poll and I asked others, how many people got more than 10% faster with AI? And I separated the question for early stage code bases and for mature code bases. And the results were vastly different actually. For early stage code bases, more than 90% of people were vastly more effective, or well, at least 10% more effective, but I think it's like a multiple even with AI. But on mature code bases, less than a third of people who answered actually said that they are more than 10% more effective than they were before. And that's actually consistent with my own experience. And actually, okay, so our support team lead, what he can do as a non-programmer with coding tools and how self-sufficient he is with organizing support workflows and building simple software tools for that, that's really amazing. But if you have a major code base, and you actually have a very senior engineering team, so you don't have too many junior engineers, the reality is that you are not bottlenecked by writing code. It's maybe 20-30% of your time. The rest is spending thinking about the software architecture, figuring out, okay, how will it scale, designing it together with others, how to build a proper solution. and then maybe you just spend a fraction of your time with code, and then even if AI saves you 50% of time, and I think it's going to be much less if it's a complex code base and you actually need to solve a complex problem there, it's not going to move the needle so much.
All right. Now let's talk a little bit about how AI is changing the engineering workflows. Maybe Michal, what do you think is the biggest shift in engineering workflows, where it made already the biggest impact?
I'm again probably not going to answer the question directly, because I think it is strongly related to actually how which workflows are useful right now to do with AI. And we have discovered that the top number one thing that we see savings in time is writing tests. We are achieving better code coverage and faster test writing. And it's not just unit testing. If you correctly create your rule set for the AI, you can generate quite good code for integration tests that is probably going to cover more stuff than you would do normally. Otherwise, you're an exception, because at least as I feel it, when I'm writing tests, I get a little bit lazy, and the AI just generates the cases. You tell it to generate the extra edge cases, and then if you already have parts of the code, you're going to finish it. So I'm definitely achieving better code coverage, and it's a good code coverage. Like it's not just mocks everywhere. So this is the number one thing. And we have actually made a qualitative survey in our company, and this is the thing that basically everyone was responding. The truth about usefulness of code generation for business tasks, that's why I have to completely agree with Petr. It depends on the complexity of the code base. I would actually separate it even more, and I would say that if you're writing new features, it can be beneficial because it's about if the code is the bottleneck. Like I'm writing a new project, and yesterday I had to create a separate work tree because AI was coding on one of the parts of the project and I was doing a different one. So that definitely speed me up. And it was okay because it was just basic REST APIs that I had to write to a new project. So I don't want to write such code. One of the things that I would recommend everyone is that you should not convince the AI to try hard if it fails on the first, let's say, 3 to 5 tries, because then it's not really smart, and it's better to start over or do it yourself, because it takes time to iterate. It's always rewriting the whole stuff that it's reading the context, it's overwriting the stuff, and for small changes it just doesn't make sense. So one thing was integration test, the other one was new code base. The last one that I feel is which is a powerful workflow is prototyping, and this also accounts testing different approaches. Because if I'm not sure what approach is going to work in my code base, I can generate parts of the stuff. It doesn't have to work, but I can take a look and I can choose myself which one is the best one that I like the most, which was something that I didn't do that often because it already took me time to write it, so I wanted to continue. There was some kind of a relationship with the code that every developer probably knows a little bit. Now if AI writes it for you, it's like another developer wrote it, so I can just scratch it and start over. It was bad. So that's the opinion.
You mentioned that when you prompt a couple of times and you don't get good results, you leave it and you move on. So I wanted to ask whether prompting is going to become the new bottleneck of software engineering or not? Maybe Zuse?
I think that we need to define the terms a little bit. Like the AI field is moving like basically every week there's something new, and like I think that even the definitions and the implementations and everything moves so quickly that when you pose this question, what do you actually mean? So let's talk about it, right? Like, so does it mean that as we post here, if the writing of the code is the bottleneck, that the bottleneck moves somewhere else? And what is the else? I mean, like in my worldview, yes, but I don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know if it's gonna be like that. But the way how I think about it is yes, because we just have to learn how to do a different job, and so if you do something else, then logically something else becomes the bottleneck. So that's how I think about it. I think about it as a complete paradigm shift. It's a tool still, and we just have to learn to use it. And terms like software engineer or senior engineer, front-end engineer, back-end engineer, stuff like that, I think they have to adjust to it, to this new reality. Like maybe we will just call it engineer, or maybe it's going to be something else altogether.
Got it. So you all mentioned that AI already is powerful in some of the tasks of engineers. Peter, how far are we from AI replacing the software engineering work altogether, from collecting requirements to deployment?
I think it's an AGI complete task, so it depends on your timelines for artificial general intelligence overall, smart as an average or above average human, and for that opinions vary widely. My timelines are actually relatively short. I think around 2030, maybe even a couple of years earlier we can get it, but there is still a big limit on the complexity capacity of LLMs. And I'm quite skeptical here about many things, but I'm actually, working in the field of AI for a long time. I'm a huge enthusiast, and even, for example, last spring, before anyone was really talking too much about AI agents, AI coding agents, I actually built Claude.vim, plug into Vim, integrating Claude there during my vacation, and it's actually amazing what you can do in 1,000 lines of Vim script that were back then written 90% by Claude itself, because I know no Vim script. And so it's really amazing, but then you start around those 1,000 lines, you started hitting those complexity bottlenecks, and it started having more and more trouble. And overall, there is right now a maximum capacity of complex concepts that the AI can grasp before it starts getting off the rails and confused, and maybe you have 2 million tokens window and you think, okay, a lot fits there, but there is research that as you start filling this window, around 20% of the window, it starts really having trouble. Actually, last night I read a paper. It was a super interesting research that explores a new law in LLMs that measures task complexity based on how long it takes people to do something, to get something done. And it discovers that LLM can double their complexity capacity every 7 months based on the trends of the last 4 or 5 years. That's pretty solid. And now, if you turn this around to software engineering, so LLM might be like a mid-year or mid-year/senior in some aspects, even software engineer that comes to your code on day one of his job. And it has grep, it can quickly read your readmes, etc. But okay, you ask it to do some job, and the job is as complex for this AI agent as for your newbie software engineer on day one. He doesn't have this like built-in understanding of all the concepts there. And if you extrapolate from that, you can imagine that okay, if you just want to prototype quickly some isolated new features, it's low complexity and it can do it. If you wanted to introduce whole new open telemetry instrumentation or I don't know what, it's gonna be very tricky, and that's gonna take still a couple of years.
Okay, so we mentioned that maybe coding isn't the most complex task for software engineers. What do you think it is? And what are the limitations of AI maybe to fulfill it, to execute it? Maybe Michal?
Yeah, that's a difficult task, difficult question. I would say that the roles are just slowly merging together, and you will always, not always, but you will for quite some time need somebody who understands the implicit needs that are not spoken when the task is designed. And I actually was trying to convince my colleague that AI is useful for his project. And when I took a look at the Jira task, I found out that I would definitely not approach AI with the task because there was so much business knowledge that was not written, and it would take so much text to actually write it that I wouldn't even want the business person to do it for me, because the people have the context over the years because they are creating the projects. And this is actually one of the things that I don't have an answer for, because there are approaches in the AI community about like creating the knowledge graph as the project evolves and storing the business tasks as well as the code and commenting the code correctly. I don't think it works right now. I believe that it could work because then it's basically the same knowledge as the person that the person has in their head. But until then, and I don't really want to make any predictions. Like, I'm pretty sure that in the next 5 years, we won't get close to replacing developers, or at least some like product developers, because one of the things that I believe developers have to focus on is understanding the business, because the routine task of coding is just not the main value anymore.
Got it. And we will talk about the difference between product engineering and software engineering and full stack, and who is most in danger. But maybe just to stay on this topic, so I want to talk a little bit about the limitations of AI. So let's imagine that you have, it's very easy to prototype now with AI. AI gives you an app that is functional, and then you have the same app doing the same jobs to be done, built by a skilled engineer. If you would compare those two apps, basically on first look doing the same jobs, what would be the difference in a way of security, in the way of long-term maintenance? What are your thoughts on this?
Maybe I'll be a little bit controversial here, but I think that in the aspects, let's say security, like, how do you enforce security today? Like, even when it's people, right? Like, so what do? Maybe you have trainings, maybe you have some CI jobs in the pipeline, maybe you have some practices. So what's gonna change about it's not being written by a human? Okay, you can skip trainings, but you can keep everything else. So, I mean, like, if you give it good guardrails, it will just follow the guardrails. So I think it's about defining the guardrails well. What were some of the other aspects? Maintenance. I think about maintenance especially, what's interesting is maintenance is usually taken as like this annoying thing that takes some of your time instead of doing some new features. But we have to, again, look at it from the lens of the AI development, right? So what is going to be maintenance now, and who's going to do it, and how much time is it going to take? Because if the maintenance is done by the AI, then who are you writing the code for? The other agent? As I mentioned like a few questions ago, like, I think that the landscape is shifting so much that it's hard to see where it's going, but I would just follow similar practices and just like adopt them to the agentic kind of approach.
Regarding security, just a side note, about a month ago, I asked Claude to implement perplexity connectivity to very old Perl script in IRC for IRC bot. It used 3 evals on untrusted user input during the implementation. So, okay, I added a guardrail. I said no evals. So it rewrite the code using backticks, evaluating this in shell. I think, and this is just an example, and I have had a couple of those observations. I think as those LLM written, as this LLM written code, especially written by non-expert engineers, starts getting into production, security will be crazy big topic, and we are in for a big ride.
Okay, Michal, you mentioned that collecting the right requirements, having the right empathy with customers, maybe knowing the business context is complex. I think a lot of companies also struggle with properly defining features and telling engineers what you really want them to build. And some of it is in your mind, some of it is on the paper, something is somewhere else. And so there is this very unique interaction between engineers and the product manager, where the in my opinion, the very senior engineer is able to push back where it makes sense. What about AI being able to replace this interaction? Is like, what's your experience?
My experience is that AI can help me write better tickets, but I don't know if in your company you have very good descriptions of tickets, because usually the people communicate even offline and then it gets outdated. So I can see a benefit here. I would love to have a perfect AI that is going to help me write the perfect ticket, but the reality is not there yet. I believe that every engineer should strive towards understanding the product and being the opponent, or not only opponent, but actually cooperating with the product manager or product owner or whatever is the role. And perhaps it can help them talk the same language if they use some AI tool. That's definitely the case. I'm using AI on daily basis, at least for communication, because I know very well what I actually want to write, and sometimes I just write a few points and then I convert it into a nice language, and especially when it's a foreign language, it saves a lot of time and helps people to understand each other. So I don't think that the roles are going to change, that they are going to disappear. I think the product managers should try to build prototypes, and developers should try to get into the business as much as possible. And then it can, I actually think that with AI, we can make smaller teams achieve bigger things, and it means that we are going to develop more stuff, because the collaboration takes a lot of overhead. And when you have small teams, especially like full stack engineers and like integrated product manager, you can achieve a lot more, because suddenly you don't have to explain everything to 5 different people and wait for your colleagues to finish. You can do all of it in one day. And this is something that is slowly adopting, at least in Rohlik, because like a few years ago, backend developers didn't want to write front end. They are not particularly happy about this, but since they have the tools and they can see the results quickly, we don't see the pushback on the simple admin sites when it doesn't have to match the design. They are actually glad that they don't have to wait and they can deliver. So we are producing more and more full stack engineers, and the people like it. That's a big one, and that's what came with AI, and that's actually the best way to drive the AI adoption in our company, because when you show a senior developer Cursor AI, it's currently not to a Java senior developer. This is not going to replace IDEA like IntelliJ. I have tried; it doesn't work. It's just way worse. But you can use it for front end, and once you find out that the agent is actually helpful for generating boilerplate code, which means new features, you can switch to Cursor as a sidecar IDE. You can run both. You can edit code in IntelliJ. You can run agents in Cursor. And this is the flow that we are slowly adopting, and it actually makes sense. And even though it could be much better, I would love to have a good agent in IntelliJ. I have tried Juni. It's not useful right now. It's buggy. It's just not doing basically anything. So this is what we're living with right now. I'm happy to switch once they do a better job.
Okay, I actually see that we have one question related to this topic in the Slido. Vasek is asking, I expected Gen AI to empower PMs to be able to create POCs of full features, but I don't see it there yet. Why do you think is that, Zuse?
Okay, I will try. Yeah. I mean, you have to ask them, I guess. But in general, I think people are not so quick to adapting to changes, right? So it's probably gonna take some time for some people to realize that they can start doing it. That's my take on it. I've seen a few PMs around me actually trying out POCs and stuff. So I wouldn't say that no PM is doing it. So I guess it depends on individual PMs, on the company they work at, the seniority, the context and everything.
All right. Peter, I have one question for you. A lot of the AI copilots for coding are trained on open source repositories. Are you afraid that this could reintroduce some of the bad habits into the coding?
Are you implying that open source repositories promote bad habits?
I don't know. You tell me.
Well, I'm for decades I worked on open source, so I would push back here a little. I think, I think in many cases open source projects have much better coding standards than proprietary ones. Actually, of course, it's case by case, but I think one issue that's there is around intellectual property. Some of the legal teams may be worried about that. From my perspective, it's like using a machine translation tool. Actually, I think machine translation is a great paradigm for LLMs because that's what they really are. They translate your prompt input to some output. By the way, they are the best machine translation on the market. Just like last weekend, for some personal thing, I compared Google Translate with Gemini, and it was a huge difference. How I was surprised how better Gemini is. But I think this is also exactly what the LMs do when you ask them to write code. As long as it's essentially machine translation and macro expansion of your human input to the code, it's fine. The moment it needs deeper thinking, you are in trouble. But sorry, back to the question. So I think there might be some legal concerns there, but not really quality concerns. I think open source code base in general is great quality.
All right, and I'd like to move to the next area, which is about future of the role of software engineers. And when I read a couple of articles, one of them said that full stack role is actually the last role that is relevant and everything else will die. So what do you think about it? Maybe Michal?
I think that the barrier to enter is definitely getting lower, and there will be more generalists with that can do all the whole vertical. But at the same time, like the specialization is probably not going to disappear. You still need to. There is still deep specialization needed when you approach some scale and you're doing something that is not that you cannot just pattern match to something else on the market. So I agree with the statement that full stack is probably going to be the most relevant job in the future, and then it's probably going to merge with some kind of product management and maybe disappear completely, and people will just write software from their homes without actually knowing anything about code. But until then, I think that AI is actually making you a better specialist, because when you start to write code, you get to results quickly, and then you don't have to search the documentation. You can just ask it can pinpoint you. And even though I can achieve more in the whole stack, I can also learn stuff much quicker. So it all depends on the approach of the person, if they want to actually go deep down or they just want to build stuff. And that's more about the person's nature than about the technology, I would say. Okay,
Zuse, I know you want to react.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned it already at the beginning, but I think that the engineering roles are gonna shift a little closer to the business. i.e. the desirable thing to do would be to be a product engineer. I would actually consider myself to be a generalist product engineer, and so for me, I can see how it makes my job much easier. I tend to change domains of the product, teams a lot, and I touch all the parts of the code. I don't really care what's the tech stack, but I just want to solve the business need, the business problem, right? And AI gives me the possibility to not spend 3 days understanding a foreign code base, right? So I think this is how it's going to work for everybody else. Maybe for some of the folks who didn't want to be product engineers because they didn't want to switch the tech stack, they are now allowed to do, and they cannot complain anymore. So I think that's definitely one aspect. But I would also like amend this by saying that, as it was kind of alluded to by the question, is like I think more people outside of engineering are also gonna become sort of partially engineers. It could be product managers, maybe even designers, kind of dabbling, you know, in engineering discipline. So as it was mentioned before, I think the roles are kind of converging on this kind of product points of just bringing new value to the market.
Peter, do you want to?
Maybe just to summarize from different perspective, for example, at Rossum, we have this perspective that every engineer should be one of two things, ideally both at once, and that's product-minded, that's term from Facebook, deep implications about the business collaboration, etc., and technically excellent. And I think both aspects are important, and the technical excellence is not getting less relevant with LLMs, at least so far, and you still, maybe what's not so important is crafting this artisan perfect code line by line, but you need great understanding of how systems work, how they scale, how computers work, so that you can debug complex problems, etc. So this is still super important, just as much as being product-minded, willing to listen to customers and understand the business. And those aspects are what you should think about when you think about your future.
And on the topic of your future, if you have some of the junior engineers, a lot of people believe that the junior roles might be, you know, a danger because their tasks are simpler, so AI can handle them more easily. But then the question comes, where do they gain the experience to become more senior so they are not replaceable? What would you advise?
It's tricky, right? And actually at Rossum, we don't have many junior engineers, so I don't have that much first-hand experience. I think it's the best time ever maybe to learn the product-mindedness because you have this more leverage. It's easier for you to be closer to the business, to understand the product, to bring energy to the team, etc. So I think there is still plenty of ways you can contribute. How you gain the technical excellence? I would ask the others. Actually, I would be curious about their experience.
I think you learn the most by doing. So I think what AI enables juniors to do is to maybe go, you know, 2 steps ahead of what they would originally be intending to do. And then I think what they should do is actually understand what it did and why it did it that way, right? And that's how I would imagine the juniors right now can get an edge, because like they're kind of in this weird position. It's like probably your value is less because you might not be so much needed on the market because there's going to be AI agents and everything. But at the same time, you're in the phase where you learn the most and you have a chance to focus on this and get an edge. So I think it's going to be the juniors that move quickly are going to be the ones who are going to be really successful here.
Can I add something? I definitely agree it's extremely tricky, but actually junior engineers still have a big edge over the AI because they actually learn and they understand stuff. So if you invest your time in junior engineer, he should be able to improve with time and become senior. With LLMs, it's just about the releases. So yeah, there will be a better model. It's not going to be any worse. That's definitely true. But the good thing for junior engineers right now is that they can deliver value without actually being that experienced. There was a big barrier beforehand, before AI, because you had to invest a lot of time so they can deliver something. Now they deliver value even though they don't know what they are actually doing. And that's no, that's both benefit and issue, because many people don't overcome this barrier. They will remain juniors because they can, let's say that they get a meteor job, they can deliver value for business, but they don't know the basics because they never go deep and down enough. So I would say it's tricky for the junior engineers, but at the same time, I would actually say that unless the company leadership is crazy with the AI marketing and they don't really see the truth about AI tools right now, it's a good time to hire junior engineers.
Okay. A lot of people, or in the conversations that I had, said that the Stack Overflow and some of the internet forums for engineers are dying because engineers are talking to copilots instead of their colleagues and their other engineers. Is this something that you agree with? That people share less, that there's less peer-to-peer learning, or not?
Okay, can I ask me this one? Because I have one specific topic that I would like to mention. I definitely don't search documentation in Stack Overflow anymore, just on very rare cases where there is something very technically special, because sometimes the LLMs return what's the most common answer and that was the right answer. So you definitely arrive to these conclusions. But at the same time, I don't think there was ever a better time to write ADRs and stuff that tracks your decisions and documents your architecture, because it's not only for the people, it's also for the AI that can validate the patterns if it matches in the code base. And I was quite sad that I have not seen AI code reviews yet that are good enough that can pattern match what I have written in the ADRs, but I believe it's it's very quickly going to become the next step, because AI static code analyzers, I think it's terrific, but it takes a lot of work to write custom rules, and suddenly you just write architectural text that developers can understand, and something on the CI can validate if it makes sense or not. So the tools are probably not there yet, but if you write documentation, it can actually verify if it at least partially matches some kind of description, which is pretty nice. Actually, I think it's lovely, and I hope it's going to be there soon.
If AI is going to boost the productivity by 20-30%, what will happen with the engineering teams? Will they shrink? Will they start focusing on more strategic work, on architecture? What do you expect to happen with the sizes of teams?
So again, no crystal ball here, but maybe it's about how companies will make decisions about if they want to make this a cost-based thing, so i.e. cutting costs, or if they want to be a growth thing, which means that they're going to actually use the effectivity. I think it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. Probably you fire some people, but you keep some to get more stuff done. So yeah, I think that's how they're going to go.
Peter, do you want to react?
Well, I'm a techno-optimist and a builder and a bit of a maximalist. I think there is so much more to build, so much more code to be written by AI, by humans. Who cares? In the end, software still hasn't eaten the world, so to say. So I hope we will just build a lot more and have a lot more cool stuff in our lives.
Yeah, and regarding the team size, I think that it goes hand in hand with what you said about the complexity of the projects and the monolithical code bases. I was for a long time proponent of monolithical, modular code bases. I actually right now, since in Rohlik we have both, and it depends on which domain you are, I find it very helpful that I'm working in a code base that is more like microservice. It's not particularly small microservices, but still the software is, the complexity is in the communication, but for the AI, that's not the issue right now, so I can generate much more code. And at the same time, the boilerplate code that is required for a new service is getting automated, so this is something that's probably going to be more and more significant. And given the fact that teams usually follow the application, like, if you want to have microservice architecture, you're probably going to have smaller teams and more of the teams because it's connected. Like the architecture of your services and the organization of the teams. So I would say that smaller teams will do more stuff, and there is a lot of stuff to build.
Just a quick note, I think monolithic versus multiple repos might be a matter of taste, and I think the tooling will adapt, but what will matter more and more is clean architecture. And yes, there's been a lot written and talked about this, but somehow as software engineers, as humans, we will still manage with the complexity. We will be 200% slower, but the management will not really understand that, and we will still get the job done somehow with 3 times the people that we have, but we will get it done. But the AI will not get it done. But if the AI is in an environment that's similar to this prototyping environment with loose coupling, clean separation of concerns, being able to work just on a small module, it will get the work done versus not, and that's much more binary outcome. And I think the biggest winners will be companies that have clean code or at least are working on it, because at Rossum we still also need to do some things.
Yeah, also wanted to add one more thing to the team sizes. There's an interesting batch in YC right now where you have a lot of startups who are a lot like composed of just like solopreneurs. So basically it's just like one person company. And like I think that the ratio of these companies in those batches is getting higher and higher. I think this is enabled by AI. So I think like you can see the trends that it's possible to have smaller teams. But again, it's about if you want to and like which kind of company you work at and etc. But also to follow up on this, maybe I'll try to be a opponent here. So I think like if you look at all the like graphs of how the models are like getting better, context is getting better, it's getting longer jobs done. I think that actually the tidiness of the code is gonna matter less and less, because the agents will just get the job done no matter what the code looks like. So maybe at least one thing we don't agree with.
But will that be maintainable?
As I said, I don't think that matters, because it's going to be the agents doing it. So,
yeah, but don't do it right now. That's a bad idea.
Yes, not right now, not right now. This is a crystal ball territory, you know.
All right. Before we move to Slido questions, I have one last question. So we talked about resizing of teams. Regardless of that, with all the new AI tooling, what do you think, should teams and organizations rethink how their teams collaborate and how the teams are structured in their organizations, or you think it will have no impact?
Okay, so I'll start. I think that from the company perspective, one of the things that you can help in adoption is to set up some policies for like allowing new tools and models, because like just agreeing upon allowing cursor AI is probably going to that's going to be overtaken by some other tool or some other, like maybe there is going to be some other model in the cursor that your legal department did not allow. So if you have a process in place, you can stay up to date. And I would also say that you have to research, but don't research too long. Just commit to using something and reevaluate in, let's say, half a year, because there is so much stuff on the market that you can just always just test new stuff and don't get anything to done. We have taken this path. We have spent like a month of just testing stuff, and now we just decided to go with some stack, and it works for us, and we are going to reevaluate this in half a year. The other thing is about it's very important. As I said, the ADRs, the architecture decision records. I don't want. I would suggest to you to just write some rules, like some coding styles, some coding rules that are describing how the application is supposed to look like. Because with cursor rules, you can actually achieve the style of code that you are going to be happy with. You can teach it to write like data preparation for tests. You can teach it how the layers are structured, so it knows that there is some facade layer and service layer and various transactional belongs and stuff like that. It's pretty good already. So if you have the discussions in your team how code should be structured, you should probably write it to some document that the AI can read, because it can only help. And the last thing is, I would say that the teams should not be afraid of going into other fields that they are not experienced with, like becoming front-end engineers, becoming back-end engineer for the front-end developers, like handling the whole stack, and trying to do as much as possible, because there is a lot of work there is a lot of stuff to build, and the AI tools make it easier. Like what we have decided to use. We can probably discuss it afterwards. I can tell you that we have about 30 to 40 people in Cursor AI license. We have agreed upon using basically all the models, but the base one for us is, of course, Claude Sonnet, the 3.7. For brainstorming with the AI, we are using either DeepSeek R1 or Claude Thinking, so that also works for us. The most promising tool for code reviews seems to be CodeRabbit and Quodo, which is formerly Codium, but we are not really happy with the results, as I said. We have some stuff on the testing, like QA side. I'm not able to tell it to you right now from the top of my head, but there are some tools as well. And we have also allowed developers to use Klein because it's open source, but it has to be connected to your own models. And we do have some deployments in our cloud, so that's what we are working with. But essentially, every developer has Copilot still, because AI is not replaced. And we have agreed upon investing into Cursor, mainly because of the pricing policies, because it is very predictable and it yields very good results. It works with the context like in an okay way. And I can tell you all the other tools that we have been trying. There is a lot of stuff, but basically it's not much. The Cursor can handle it right now. Yeah.
All right, so we have about 20 minutes for the Slido questions. Just a reminder, there is QR code, so you can scan it and ask the question. All the questions will go through Slido. You can go there and upvote. We have about 40 questions. So if there is a question that you like, feel free to upvote it, and hopefully we will get to it. The first question, and I forgot to mention that the speakers will stay after the panel. So also if you have a question that you want to ask face-to-face, it will be possible. So the first question is from Matusz. How much of your day do you actually spend coding versus just watching Cursor do the job? Maybe Zuse?
Yeah, interesting question. I think it depends on the quality of your prompt and whether the agent is doing what you want it to do. So actually, that's kind of one of the skills that I'm trying to work on, is like, what should be the prompt? What kind of rules should we add to the code base to make sure that I can not watch it as long as I can? But like, you're probably asking about some realistic numbers. So like, I mean, usually the prompts are pretty like quick, you know, in terms of like minutes, maybe lower tens of minutes. And like, if I want to, I look at it. I usually do look at it because I actually want to learn the mistakes that it's doing, and then make sure that next time I prompt, I'm just gonna prompt it better, or I'm just gonna put it into rules so it doesn't ever happen again. So, you know, like you can probably imagine from what I was saying before, like, I don't know, it's probably like half and half. Right now I'm like experimenting with like running 2 cursors. So like I clone the code base again, and then I'm doing like 2 tasks at once. So like the one is finished, I do the other one, etc. Yeah, like my grand vision is to make another agent that would just like span all these work streams. I would be like, good morning AI, you know, I just want to do 5 things today. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm kind of working on. So I'm like watching it to learn, but my grand goal is to not look at it at all and just like see the results, just like check up on the AI. Hey, what's up? Are you done already? Do you need more context to continue? That's kind of like my dream scenario.
All right. Peter, another question from Matush. What is the one thing in AI this past week that totally blew your mind?
I think it's been one of the slower weeks this year so far, because there has been like so much, especially in February and January with DeepSeek and the huge investments and super interesting work that's been done at UFAL here in Prague, for example, with the European LLM models, etc. From the past week, honestly, the thing that's most stuck in my mind is this new Moore's law for LLMs regarding this complexity speed up. And I think it really helps you to think about the capacity of LLMs for complexity. So the LLMs getting twice better every 7 months, that's a pretty nice exponential. But also it will take a couple of years to be able to do something really complex on its own.
Anything that blew your mind, Zuse, Michal?
I have like one more personal. So I was working on like this Productboard MCP demo, and obviously I was prompting it, right? I was not writing it. And what I was surprised by is like one of the part of it was like connecting to the public API of Productboard. So I just gave it the link to our public docs, and it just scraped the website because it couldn't find the open API spec, and just did it like a half working version of the endpoints. And then because it's an MCP, that it could like test the MCP right away, and then it just like, you know, could go in circles. And like when it figured out that the format of the payload to the API was wrong, it like created a separate isolated script just to test that one endpoint, and then start calling itself to figure out what's the correct format. And when it was finished, it put it into the main like implementation, and then it said done. And I was like, okay, fine. I think I'm out of a job right now. That was kind of a really interesting realization. Also, it like learned to look into logs. So like at one point, I wanted to have the logs for me to see what kind of errors it's doing. But then because it knew that there are logs from those requests, it started introspecting the logs to fix the issues that it found. And like I was like, I didn't tell it to do it. Like it just figured it out by itself. And that was kind of like this weird moment when I was like, I didn't tell it to do it, but it's a really good idea.
Yeah, we also have one example that blew my mind, but in probably in a quite different way. We were trying Builder.io, and one of our colleagues tried it on a Figma script, Figma file. It generated quite terrible output, and then we connected Cursor to the MCP for Figma. And it was like 3 times better. So like I definitely cannot say that it's stable output. It's probably going to fail hard on many other stuff. But the fact that Builder.io wants about $30,000 per year for our team, and then you can do the same with open source, that blew my mind.
Michal, maybe let's stay with you. There is a question from Honza. Did anyone on the team adopt the new AI tools organically, or did you have to persuade people to do it? And did any people actively refuse to use it?
Yeah, definitely. Like people don't like to change their workflows. It's difficult. We still don't have perfect adoption, not nearly. It very much varies across teams, because if somebody is using VS Code, typically front-end developers, it's a very small step forward, and basically no front-end developer who tried Cursor ever wanted to go back so far in Rohlik. So that's a good sign. With backend developers, it's much more difficult. You have to show them that it actually helps in their workflow, and a lot of them don't trust you that they are quick key mappings from some ideas are going to be slower than letting AI to generate your code. And it's definitely not like 2 hours of testing. You have to actually invest some time because you have to have the idea of actually which tasks are actually efficient with AI and which you should do manually. Like I definitely don't do everything with AI, and I've been in this for using these IDEs for the past 2 months very extensively. I'm not running 2 cursors side by side. I'm running 1 cursor and 1 IDEA and working on 2 separate tasks. So that works for me. Maybe I will do it this way as well in the future. Yeah, that's the approach. One of the things that works is actually getting together with the developers and showing them that you can be faster than them. That's the only thing that really convinces them. The other thing that we did was we organized a hackathon where several people tried completely different tech, and they were really very much surprised. So the next day they tried it on some of their real work, and some of them were sad because the project is complex. Some of them were happy because it wrote the test on the first try. Yeah, you have to work on the experience. We're also organizing weekly checkups with the people that started to use Cursor. Right now we don't have much to share because the group of people that actually wants to use it is already using it, and the newbies are just 1 or 2 people a week. So we are approaching them individually, but we will still keep having bi-weekly meetings to discuss the new stuff and our experience. And the last thing that I would like to mention regarding the MCP servers, we are actually experiencing with connecting our internal APIs for configuration via MCP to some of our low-code tooling, which essentially means that you can then change some configuration via, let's say, Slackbot API, which seems like a promising and a simple task to do to lower the complexity of implementing these repeating features for support team. So, and that's where engineers are actually feeling it's cool new stuff. So they want to try it, and once you get them into the AI cycle, it's a hype. So you refuse it, then you're basically thinking it's going to replace your job, and then you get to a state where you're a little bit more efficient and you are willing to try new stuff.
Love it. Peter, Zuzana, do you want to share just any thoughts on the previous question? No? All right.
Yep, maybe what I would also add is the support of languages that goes hand in hand kind of with the Cursor and VS Code thing. We also mentioned Juni, that it's not great. I'm really sad to hear it because I wanted our Kotlin guys to actually start using it. So yeah, mostly now it's JavaScript, TypeScript, all the front end is kind of I would say the most forward. And if you're on the Java train, you probably have to wait a bit, or you have to run Cursor with IDEA side by side. So that's a major hurdle, I would say.
Okay, Peter, one question for you. Can you share some other interesting articles or findings you read recently, and where?
So it's a bit shameful in this age to admit it, but I am on Twitter because the bleeding edge frontier AI community just is on Twitter. Yes, I tried Blue Sky, etc. But it's what it is. So that's where I get most of my bleeding edge news around frontier AI. And maybe I'll just mention one thing that many people sleep on, and that's the power of distillation and local models. Because you can still have this idea, okay, to use a really powerful model that's really intelligent, I need to use those cloud services, or I need this a huge server that costs me $1 million with super beefy GPUs. But actually, you can download models that fit onto your gaming NVIDIA 4060 that you bought to play Assassin's Creed Shadows, finally out today. It's amazing what it can do, those distillations. So I think in the future we will have a lot of models, very powerful models, just running for free on our local hardware, be it our phone or our MacBook, etc. And Apple architectures are actually particularly suited for this this because the M processors, they have integrated GPU and super fast bus into RAM, so you don't hit those VRAM limitations, so you can use predictions even on fairly large models. So I think that's what will come very, very soon, and for a lot of those things you will not just even have to pay for any cloud models and cloud inference.
Nice, thank you. We have a question from Robert. Would you support your kid if he or she want to become a software developer? Maybe Michala?
Let's focus only on the AI stuff, because like there is a lot of reasons you could argue with. I think it perhaps the golden age for software development, where you can make a ton of money doing like junior positions and stuff like that, is over. But at the same time, the question then becomes like, why do you study pure math, or why do you study history? Like maybe the application will be different, maybe your job will be different in the future, but I still think that if you're interested in it, it's a very cool field, and nobody knows the future, so like why not? I would definitely recommend it if he or she finds it interesting. And I would say that there is very little other you cannot make a mistake with something in science because you can adapt quickly. Yeah, that's the thing.
I would maybe add, like when serverless was a new thing, like people were afraid, like what all the server people are gonna do. I mean, like you still need servers to run serverless, right? So I think this is like a very like similar situation. It's like, it's not like the tech is not gonna disappear. I mean, maybe in 50 years it's gonna disappear, like in the sense that it's gonna build itself, but like that's like very far away. That's maybe the kid of the kid territory.
Right, Peter, back to you. How much effort have you put into automating prompt preparation to make the most out of Cursor? Like documentation, documenting architecture, patterns, problem decomposing?
I think it's better for one of.
Right, any?
Yeah, I can start. I have a long backlog of things to look at, but like I think last week we merged global Cursor rules. So these are like global kind of rules that I would expect the agent to know about, like the tech stack that we're using on the front end, to be a 10x developer, of course. That's like one of the hack prompts. There's also like a lot of websites online that aggregate these prompts and rules, so you can actually get inspired. I haven't done that yet, but there's some very good things. You can tell it, for example, to just keep going until it's finished with all the errors and stuff. Now it's even, I think, natively in Cursor, but before it was there, like you could do this. Or you can tell it to like not do the things outright, but prepare a plan first, right? So like, and write it down in a markdown file and then start work on the markdown file. So all these kinds of things that you find it doing and you want them to be done right the next time, you just codify it in this file, you check it out in the repo. What else is there? Yeah, also we have documentation checked into the repository. So you just, in the rule, you refer to it and you say, this is the documentation that we have. And if you have any questions in regards our tech stack, look there. Actually, it works. I mean, it did that like a few days ago for me when I was doing some GraphQL stuff. Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned most of it.
Okay. As I already said, I don't really spend that much time convincing AI to do the stuff, so it either works or not. And I do have a few rules that I follow. I usually first ask it, and then I switch to the agent mode and execute. So I give it a prompt of what I want to do. It's not too long, because if I had to write too long prompt, I could already do the stuff very often. Like maybe not perfectly, but since the output of the AI is not 100% correct, almost never. It's I almost always have to switch back. I don't spend so much time. The other aspect is that I actually think that the developer experience is still important, and if I had to completely change my flow, it would just completely break how I work when I'm not using AI. So what I do is, we are definitely using Cursor rules, like do it, or do any other like rules for your tool that you are using. I would say actually that the stuff that you can find on the internet is pretty generic and useless. I have searched a lot of repositories, but I feel like developers are just keeping their secrets of how to write good code, or I don't know. Like it's it's full of this stuff like be a very good senior, a very senior developer. So, and that's already something that these tools have inside the context. So.
But I actually saw a difference when I put it there.
Really?
Like, yeah, it really is kind of doing things differently. I don't know why.
Yeah, I also sometimes tell it to like try harder. That also sometimes works. Yeah. Yeah, so ask first, then put it into the agent mode, and that's probably it. Like, yeah.
Maybe I would add, I still haven't had a chance to check it out, but for larger code bases, there's this thing called like repo mix and like repo prompt, where like if you need context about a larger code base and you want to work with the context a little bit, like instead of it like actually using the real files, like you can kind of like codify the files in a format and paste it in so that it has the context of it, and then you can kind of work with larger code bases. That's something I wanted to try out.
That's actually a good point that I have to mention. Like explicitly mention the context that you are working with. It helps tremendously, and also. And it just slipped my mind. So,
like, I will probably add. Maybe you can connect it. Like, so in general, just like learn how to prompt and how to give it context, and be very mindful about what you give it, what you don't give it, and if it's running out of context, right? Like, just like treat it as a person. You also cannot throw, a million lines of code on a person and then expect that it's going to be done in 5 minutes, right?
That was deep. And on the deepness, how about DeepSeek? Are you worried that DeepSeek could leak your data to Chinese government?
Yes, we banned it.
We are using US models running in the US infrastructure. So we have banned Chinese DeepSeek. We are running DeepSeek on top of US or European infrastructure.
Okay, that was quick. Adam is asking, what do you think about vicious cycles of engineers using AI instead asking and resolving problems on Stack Overflow, which AI is dependent on? Peter?
I think it's going to be a problem. I think it's unsolved problem right now, but for example, right now, if someone were to introduce a new programming language, it's going to be super tricky because no LMs will have any advice, will not know how to do it, etc. And I think it's still unsolved. Like, okay, you introduce some new Python or TypeScript features, but how can you actually make the LMs start using them? Of course, there are some solutions, but I think they are largely unexplored. And I think this will be super interesting. And we will have to figure out how to add extra context maybe to the LLMs, maybe during the training, how to prioritize this knowledge, but this needs some product work and figuring things out. And I think Stack Overflow by itself, of course, sees a lot of decline. We talked about it a little. I think, however, that LLM can systematically sometimes just do wrong things, give you bad advice, for example, regarding security, regarding other things. And sites like Stack Overflow, a huge part of their value is they are community curated. And I think, again, this needs some product thinking. And how can we curate outputs of LLMs? I think, by the way, outside of engineering, if you have those deep research agents, versus Wikipedia, that's going to be super interesting dynamic as well. Because if you ask them about something that's described on Wikipedia, they can also research a lot of things, but they cannot do the judgment about quality of different sources, etc. But at the same time, right now, the future of Wikipedia, super essential resource, is also in big question. So we will still need to find answers to that.
And to turn to the positive note, maybe Michal, could you share what is the best AI-based improvement you've implemented in Rohlik?
I'm not sure if you're talking about the stuff that I've built with AI or the AI stuff that's in the product. So if somebody can clarify.
Let's say that it would be AI-based improvement for your productivity.
Okay, for my productivity. So yeah, as I said, I'm building a new product, and we are like yesterday I I completed 8 different Jira tasks that were, all of them were different like listing endpoints, and it was completed in under 3 hours. And I had to duplicate the repo to really like run it in parallel, because I already had an example. I had to do it in 2 different domains, so that was definitely quick. We also managed to onboard, like as I said, I'm working currently on one of the projects. This new project is we are working on it in 4 developers, and both the backend developers adopted AI to write front end. So my friend, my colleague, who resisted writing front end yesterday, tried it and built 2 pages for user role management in the little app that we have, which is something that would have taken him long hours during night reading documentation, and it's good enough. It's not perfect, but it works, and it's so restricted in the scope that it's okay. And if you have the experience, front-end developer in your team that can do a peer review, then I think it's completely valid approach. So it's helping me a lot.
Maybe I can add one more from the product perspective, because we didn't talk about that much tonight, I think. At Rossum, what we do is we use AI to extract data from documents. That's kind of one of the core things, and we still do it, by the way, a lot better than the VLMs. Yes, we benchmark them at least a bit. But what we also do is we process those documents for business users. So, for example, accountants get their invoices processed by Rossum, and they need to be able to say, okay, if this invoice comes from this supplier and is over this amount routed to that team, and they have like pages and pages of rules like this. And until recently, they needed to get an IT person to kind of configure it, express that in some rules, or even in some code, in some custom extension of Rossum, because we are extensible, but you need a programmer. And what we use LLMs for fairly recently is you can actually describe as an accountant precisely what I said in a simple human sentence. And we prepared a special custom Python-based environment with some custom objects and some operator overloads, etc., so that you can, in very simple Python code, express those basic ideas. And we just let LLMs, based on this human input, generate this code, and it enables admins to actually configure a lot of this themselves without involving their IT, which is always super complicated for them. And of course, there is question of robustness and how can this work well. But actually, with smart UX, when you, for example, show results for 100 sample documents, you can help this a lot. And also another trick that we use is, okay, we use this human natural language input, we generate Python code, but then what we show to the user is a natural language summary that's generated back from this Python code. So it's a sort of a double check that actually the code make sense and the LLM didn't screw up during the process.
Awesome. And because we are almost on time, let's finish with a short round of short questions, short answers. If you should give one piece of advice to engineers here or online, what they should do to stay relevant in the era of AI, what would it be? And let's start from Zuse.
Just start and start small. It's fine if you like paste one file to another location, then just ask it to fix the imports. It's fine. Like you will learn and you will start giving it more and more complex prompts and more context, and that's how you adopt it. So just look into it. Just download it. There's like Cursor. There's like I think 2-week trial or something. Try it out, see what works. It's probably not going to work for a lot of things, but if you give it very simple things that it cannot mess up, one file context, just do it right away. Do it tomorrow. Do it when you come back from the meetup. Download it and try it out.
Michal?
I completely agree with this. I would say that you should treat the AI as a partner. So just put your ego aside, and if it generates good code, you just accept it. And if it doesn't, you do it yourself. And just don't resist the new approach, because it's something new. So yeah.
I agree. Just start and put your ego aside, treat it as a partner. But that'll be more challenging too. I think to stay relevant for the long term, you need to become first a great thinker and second a great writer. because to work with those LLMs, you need to be able to actually communicate with it well and write well. And what does writing well means? First, you need to have great ideas. Sorry, but there is no way around it. You need to be smart. You need to have a lot of experience. You need to come up with great ideas about, okay, what to do and how to do it on the high level. Second, you need to have structured thinking. So you need to organize those ideas well, describe them in layers of abstraction, etc. We are actually, as programmers, really well equipped to this. And third, you need to be actually great at expressing those ideas unambiguously. That's been always important when you work with a team, and it's been a skill of the more senior people in the team. But when you work with LLMs, you need the same skill. So now on all levels of seniority, we'll need this. So good luck.
I take that. All right. Let me thank to all the speakers. Peter, Zuse, Michal, thanks for joining us. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed it. You're more than welcome to stay. And let's network. Thanks. Thank you a lot.